From the top of the world to living in poverty, these are the 10 footballers who lost everything. And first up, the king's addiction cost him his throne in the game. Back in the day, Diego Maradona was untouchable. I mean, yeah, treated like a king. But you see, guys, this was all just on the surface, because down below, Maradona was struggling with an addiction that had him on the brink of losing everything. Maradona's addiction became known to the public in 1982, and even though he denied it at first, by 1991, he was on the news for the wrong reasons. He got busted after testing positive for banned substances. Maradona's first ban was for 15 months, and you'd think that after a heavy ban like that, he'd have learned his lesson and quit it, right? Well, this was only the beginning, and his next high-profile event shocked the whole world. So here's the deal. This was supposed to be Maradona celebrating a normal goal, right? Well, it was anything but that. Maradona's wild celebration into the cameras caught the eye of the officials, so after the game, they'd invited him for a test, and by the time the test results came out, his World Cup dream was over. He was sent home after testing positive for banned substances. With this news, FIFA further banned Maradona for 15 months, and he was in no mood to run a comeback, so he decided to retire from international football altogether. But that didn't mean he quit, and his last encounter with them finished the job on his career. Addictions have ruined the lives of some of the world's best ballers and made them lose everything, from Maradona to George Best. Now, just in case you didn't know who this dude was, here's the picture. Before Ronaldo, Beckham, and Eric Cantona became legendary number 7s at Manchester United, there was this guy, George Best, and yeah, he was that good. But you see, guys, Best had a problem, because despite being that good on the pitch, off it, he was struggling with living a normal life, all thanks to alcohol. He spent late nights partying and drinking away, but what he didn't know was that these things had crazy effects, and pretty soon, Best's liver couldn't take it anymore, and in 2002, he had to undergo a liver transplant surgery just to stay alive. But by now, the damage the alcohol had done to his system was already way beyond repair. And even though he had this surgery to kind of give him a chance at staying alive, it was too late. In 2005, the terrible news broke out. Best lost his life due to multiple organ failure. If only he'd stayed off the alcohol, it could have been different. Truth is, alcohol has made a lot of ballers in the past go down. And just like Best, another legend entered the same category of going on so much booze that it cost him his career. Imagine being so cool, you get a nickname like Gaza and inspire future generations. That was Paul Gascoigne's reality. He was so good that at his peak in Euro 1996, he legit had houses with kids all wanting to be like him. I guess they wouldn't have been so keen on that if they knew the stuff Gaza was battling with though, because deep down, he simply couldn't get enough. He used the booze as his way of getting himself up when he was down. Hey Gaza, I don't think you looked in the mirror back then, because if you did, you'd have realized just how good you actually were at football and played the game instead. Damn, Gaza being at the peak of his powers and going down like that reminds me of this dude, who 2 years after reaching the heights in football, fell off crazy. 2005, and Liverpool had somehow managed to pull off the greatest comeback in Champions League final history. Yeah, the miracle of Istanbul. Part of the team that did that was Jon Arne Riise, a mainstay in the Liverpool team, and a pretty tough guy too. He looked like he'd sweep out any opponent who tried to get past him. But you see, guys, 2 years later in 2007, Liverpool was in another Champions League final again. Oh no, scratch that. Riise, man, who the heck do you go from winning the Champions League to declaring bankrupt? The case was tied down to Riise owing over $100K in unpaid debt, and was even linked to a $3 million fraud case back home. Add that to a failed hotel business, and I guess I'm starting to understand it now. That's some bad luck. Top-tier fullbacks losing everything? Risa and Celestine Babayaro. Now this guy was so good, he broke into the first team at Chelsea age 19 and even won the Olympics with country Nigeria in 1996. At the peak of his powers, Celestine played for the Blues and even had a stint at Newcastle. With teams like that in his resume, he was making steady bank early on, until towards the end of his career in his 2010s, when the money started slowing down, and he probably didn't have a savings plan or something like that, because before he knew what was going on, he declared bankrupt. It was so bad, they had to put up his $500K home for sale. I guess Babayaro and I do have one thing in common now, sleeping in our mom's basements. Now, I can understand Celestine going broke, because he probably thought the money was going to keep coming or something like that. But imagine going broke because you tried to help out for a good cause. Brad Friedel is one of the OG ballers to come out of the States and an icon in the American game. But maybe not in American banks, because despite playing for teams like Spurs and Aston Villa, and earning some decent cash too, Friedel was declared bankrupt in 2011. And the reason for that isn't what you think it is. See guys, Friedel actually wanted to do good, so back home, he set up an academy and had designs on making it one of the best in the world. But I don't think he thought it through properly, because in the end, his ambitious plans blew up in his face and was in a reported debt of $5 million. His home in Cheshire was even on the line too. This one's kind of sad, I won't lie. But there's nothing sad about a pro baller going on a binge for years and losing everything right after. At the peak of his powers, Royston Drenthe was legit locking up at the Bernabeu. Yup, he was playing alongside names like Sergio Ramos and even Ronaldo, living the dream. Drenthe was part of the Dutch team that won the Under-21 Euros in 2007, and after being named as the player of the tournament, he was all set for a promising future in Madrid. But once he caught wind of the Madrid nightlife in Spain, it was over. After just 46 games, a lot of night parties, Drenthe was out of Madrid and struggled to find his feet in the game. So, what'd he do? This! He turned to rap music under the name Roy Two Faces. Imagine that! Well guys, this too didn't work out for him, and he kinda put all he had from his football days into making this one work. So after it failed, well, the courts in Holland had no choice. So yeah, they declared him bankrupt. Leaving the game like that was a huge gamble for Drenthe. And speaking of gambling, I don't think I've seen anyone do it worse than Keith Gillespie. Just like Beckham, Giggs, and the Neville brothers from the United class of '92, Gillespie had a promising future ahead of him at the start. But by 2010, he gambled almost everything he made from the game, and at the age of 35, was declared bankrupt. To put this in a proper picture, Gillespie made over $7.3 million. How the heck do you gamble all of that away, bro? How not to become a football millionaire, the Gillespie edition. Safe to say, Gillespie took a gamble on his career. But Emmanuel Eboy, he took a gamble on his love life and lost. Unfortunately, there was nothing fantastic about Eboy's marriage to his wife Aurelie, because what he didn't know was that she was sabotaging his life. See, Eboy loved Aurelie so much that he put her in charge of his finances, and anything she told him to sign, he gladly did. Until one day, she figured she'd taken enough from him and decided to leave him for worse, and Eboy was shattered. Damn, it was that bad. To be fair with him, he probably loved her so much that there's no way he'd have seen this coming. Can't say the same about Ryan Giggs though, because in Giggs' case, he used his own hands to ruin his reputation. That class of '92 I talked about earlier, yeah, Giggs was one of the main stars. To date, he holds the record for the most assists in the Premier League with 162, an achievement you'd think would be a proud one for him and his family. But back home, Giggs is no saint. he's the bad guy after doing the unthinkable. Despite having a relationship with his wife Stacy, Giggs was cheating on her with his brother's partner Natasha. Now this is messed up. In fact, it was so bad that Giggs claimed his mom stopped speaking to him because of it. She's got every reason to. That's some crazy stuff. But not as crazy as you telling me you haven't subscribed to our channel yet.